appreciate you better than I can do. Yes, Dr. Apaak.
Well, Samson, let me say good morning to you and my co-panelists, and to say it has been long. I know the people of Bulsa South are watching. Of course, they expect me to be home by now, helping to mobilize, prospective voters to go and vote. Samson, let me be honest in saying that I have been very impressed with the level of the discourse and the very probing questions that have come up so far from all those who have spoken. That actually makes my work easier. And I say so because the conversation and the discourse ought to be taken out of the partisan realm to look at it from a national perspective. And I think that is why the current posture of the EC in terms of the way it is seeking to dispense its responsibilities to the people is drawing such attention and disagreement. I have listened to, Dr. Sibo Kwaku here, and in many ways, the arguments he is actually making invariably reinforces and gives credibility to the concerns that almost every other stakeholder in this republic has raised with regards to this exercise, which they are refusing to concede. But the commentary so far from him confirms that they are not doing things the way they ought to do. And you see, let me read again Article 42, because I think it is very important, and we ought not to run away from the content of the Constitution, because that is the law that we all look up to, which should guide our conduct, both as citizens and as institutions created by us through our Constitution to deal with the electoral processes. What does Article 42 say? Right to vote, with your permission, as we do in Parliament. I must seek the Speaker's permission before I read. Article 42, right to vote. Every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purposes of public elections and referenda. So we've spoken about rights. He made the case that rights come with responsibilities. And I don't argue. I think that is tried knowledge that we have all accepted. But you see, the framers of the Constitution didn't just leave it there at rights. They spoke about entitlement. And I think that is significant. Earlier commentators made the point, and I think Kofi Bentil in particular, dwelt a lot more on the inclusion of the word entitlement. And for the avoidance of doubt, just look at the basic definition of entitlement. It says entitlement, the belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. Inherently deserving. So what this means is that the Electoral Commission has the mandate and is enjoined by the law of the land to ensure that citizens, once they meet the minimum threshold in terms of being 18 years and above and of sound mind, are able to register at their convenience in a manner that is not going to dehumanize them and call their dignity in question. What this also then means is this. All of the issues that have come up so far, which we know are militating against the right of the citizen to enjoy this right and entitlement, ought to be addressed. And look, I am a rural MP, and I can give you practical examples from our constituency of Bulsa South. You played some clips, you saw a national chairman, he made allusions to some of the challenges on the first and second days. I am going to speak to you as somebody who is both bearing a cost and who is also worried that even in spite of that, I am not able to mobilize the needed young people in my constituency who should be registered to register because the Electoral Commission is being unlawful. Honestly, because if you look at the law, the CI, the Constitution, the mandate of the EC itself, and the right to vote, and the fact that one is entitled to be registered to vote, you juxtapose that with the EC's posture and what we are being told. The EC is breaking the law, the EC is being lawless, and in fact, the EC is acting contrary to what the framers of the Constitution intended it to do. And I think...
I was hoping you will have some questions for him.
I will.
Because that is important.
I will, very quickly.
As to how this right is such a sacred right, our courts have affirmed it.
Very well.
I have personally argued before our courts, and they have accepted that this is not just a constitutional, it's a fundamental human right.
That is
what
the point.
That means is that it is a right not given to you by the state. It is your birth right.
I agree.
That cannot be taken away from you. And Chief Justice Wood emphasizes that in the judgment in which they said even prisoners must have the right to exercise.
Fair and good. So that is settled, and that is a right. But look at the practical aspects of it and why this continues to be an issue. As we sit today, my constituency is a very rural constituency, very vast. You have communities like Bachongsa, like my own village of Dorninga. Our district capital is Fumbisi. From Bachongsa to Fumbisi is 35 kilometers. The roads are terrible, atrocious. In this rainy season, we are farming folk. So people are also busy trying to do what they always do, is to cultivate and ensure that they are able to survive for the next year. To say that an 18-year-old should go from Bachongsa 35 kilometers and to pay in and out 32 Ghana cedis to Fumbisi to go and register to vote, clearly it's a disincentive. And I'm being honest.
Nana Komia argues that even this constituency of his, which is in the center, he still doesn't get the sense in what the EC is doing, because people have to pick about 2 different cars to get to the center where they should vote.
That is the point.
They should register.
That is the point. So when we speak about voter suppression and the possibility, real possibility, that eligible voters are going to be disenfranchised because of the variables militating against easy access to access this right.
He says there's a window.
These are real.
He says there's a window. After this process, limited registration, there's a window of the continuous registration up till we are
you
go for elections.
See, I disagree. And you raised that point, and I thought his explanation, for lack of a better word, was flimsy. It really was not grounded in any logic. It is your duty to register eligible voters. It should not matter what the quantum of eligible voters are, whether they are the estimated, I believe,
about
1.4 million or more. That should not be the case. And you see, this is where I have a problem with the Electoral Commission and in particular the commissioners. They seem to have the penchant of imposing their understanding, their interpretation, and their perspective of what is a challenge and what is not on we the people who have the constitutional mandate to enjoy the right.
But you
don't decide. Wait, I'm coming.
They are not fair.
You don't decide. You don't decide whether I should register this time to participate in a district level election or wait to register later on to participate in the national election. That is not your decision to make. Your job is to make it possible for me to register.
When he spoke,
whether I register,
his emphasis has been the sanctity of the
Yes,
electoral roll,
yes.
which has been a problem since we started compiling voters' register.
We will come to that. In fact, the sanctity of the electoral roll is a concern that is not only confined to the Republic of Ghana. You know that. Even in other jurisdictions. Even democracies that we look up to for best practices. There is always a challenge. So the point I'm making is that I am not convinced, and I don't think any Ghanaian is convinced, hearing what Dr. Shribo Kweku is saying. Okay. It is not too late for the right thing to be done. All we are asking for is this. Expand it. Let the registration centers devolve from your district offices to the electoral areas. If you were to do that, you will remove many of these impediments. We are not saying that by doing so, all of the impediments
Thank you.
go away.
Let me take from